So in this video, we're going to show you how to take a tiny little bitmap, which we often get from our customer, and be able to make a rhinestone template out of it. Now this design I actually did earlier, and I have this tiny little bitmap. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to resize this to the size that we need. Now, and then we're going to recreate the design using a combination of CorelDRAW along with rStone. Now, we could use CorelDRAW by itself. rStone will make it a little bit easier for us, however. So what we're going to do here, first of all, is get rid of this extra black, or most of it anyhow, on both sides. And the reason that we're doing that is so we can get a more accurate picture of how wide this image is, because our client says it needs to be 9 inches wide. And if we had all that extra black space on either side and we were to resize the bitmap to 9 inches, then we'd have a problem. Okay, so there is our basic design. And what we're going to do is we're going to right click and lock it down so we cannot move this design. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to right click on our orange, and we get this warning dialog box. We'll click OK, and we're going to define a pen width, and again we get this dialog box. That's OK too. And then I'm going to come to a different design that I have and grab over my poker chips. So we'll go ahead and paste those into place. So there is my poker chips, and this is my blends that I use if I'm going to just do this in CorelDRAW, and then also my individual stone sizes down here, 6, 8, 10, 12, 16, and 20, and then the corresponding blends up here. So we'll probably do a combination of rStone and CorelDRAW. For those of you who don't have rStone, you can create these types of designs all day long, super simple using CorelDRAW. So let's grab our pen tool and begin our work. And the beauty about this, and this can go very quickly, so I'm going to try and go quickly deliberately to show you how simple it really is. So we're just going to drag out a line here, okay, and we're going to go ahead and just go ahead and keep on, and don't worry about connecting lines and all that monkey business. All we're doing is just going to drag, there's one there, and we're going to drag a line there. Perfect. We're going to start a line there, and we're going to probably click a couple of control points here, something like that. And then this is typically what I would do if I have a, if a client sends in a font file or something, or some text like this example. We're just going to come in here and draw some line segments. We're not really going to concern ourselves with connecting line segments and all that monkey business. It's really not that important. You can see what we have here is kind of going around and down. So I'll do another point there and come back and do a point there. And then for our S, we'll do one there, one there, one there. And we really don't really care where these control points are. We just need to add a few in here. So I just get all my straight line segments first, just because I think that is what's easiest. And then let's go over here and do our R shape here. And then we'll do this. We'll do 2 control points. And we have our. This will all make more sense here in a moment when we start piecing it all together. And then right here is our star. So boom, 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 boom. And just follow that star around like so. Okay, back to the beginning. Perfect. So now we have all of our basic line segments. We do need a circle to represent our O in rock. So we'll go ahead and manipulate that a little bit. Get this down There we go. Do the same thing with our letter C. So we'll go ahead and grab another oval shape, and we'll finesse that a little bit. Okay, well, and then what I did was grab my shape edit tool and drag it, just double click right on the edge where I want my node to be. I have a control point right at the tip of my C, so double click on the line. That will add a node for us. Supposed to anyhow. Let's see what's happening here. Doesn't what that is selected. What's going on here? Oh, I know. I drew an oval shape, right, with my oval shape tool, but I did not convert it to a curve. So Control Q converts it to a curve. Now we can add additional control points. So double click. There's a control point at the top of the C. Double click, control point at the bottom of the C. Now, by default, ovals have 4 nodes at each quadrant. And so there's a node over here on the right that I'm going to right click on it and choose break apart. And then I'm going to select the node and delete it. And what will happen is the line segments will go to that node that we added, and that makes up our C. Okay, so now what we have to do is we have to finesse the lines of our letters. So I'm just going to select these lines, and up here I'm going to convert it to a curve and click and drag. And then we'll grab these control points here, and then we can fine-tune exactly how we want it to look. Okay, so the same thing down here. We'll select this line segment right here. It's actually a 2-part line segment. Select them both, convert both lines to a curve, and boom. So that would just kind of bump that one up a little bit, and this one we're just going to pull it down. Okay, and again we can fine-tune the placement of our control points. We have our arrows, we can fine-tune that. And what I like to do anytime there's like a curve going one direction and then going the other, I'm going to right click on that node and smooth it out. And you can see that pretty much took care of that situation there. And then we have a similar situation with our letter K, although we have kind of a zigzag going on of pieces. There's 3 pieces to this. So we'll select the whole bit, convert all the lines to a curve, and then we can really finesse this letter exactly how we need it to be. So this one we're going to move up here. This one we're going to move down here. And then we'll grab our control point. And now we have our control points. We can pretty much finesse this any way, shape, or form. Sometimes you don't click on the arrow and we lose our control points. But just click, we get our control points back, and really finesse this however you see fit to get that curve going the way we want it. So we'll go ahead and move on to our letter S. Do the exact same thing to curve all those individual segments, and then just pull it down, grab those nodes, handles, so we can get this position just the way we need it. Same thing here. Now we do have some curves happening here, and we had one here too, so I would right click on that even though we don't need it. I just always smooth. Anytime we're going from a curve one way to a curve another way, I always say, hey, I'm going to smooth you out. This one we didn't get positioned real well. We want it right dead center there. But this one here we'll just pull out. Okay, and we can, again, fine-tune with these handles and get that line segment exactly the way we want it. Same thing here. We have these handles, we can force it into submission, and then wherever we have these curves going one direction than the other, we have a couple of them here, I just like to right click on those control point nodes and smooth things out. And then we have one more letter to go here, which is our letter R, and we will finesse that one. Click on that control point, and I'm going to show you a bit more in detail here what I'm actually doing there, because you're going to say, I can't get that to happen the way you're just clicking it and it's just doing it, and I can't get it to happen. So let me show you in more detail, explain this. So all I'm doing, I'm in my shape edit tool, right? I click on my line. That line is kind of have dotted. I'm coming way outside here, click and drag to select all the individual nodes of this line, which in this case is 3. And then I'm using my property bar to convert line to a curve. Now, once that line is converted to a curve, I can hover over it and I can click and drag. But notice when I click and drag these two line segments, I don't get any control handles. Okay? I actually have to click off of the element and then click a node, and then you can see I get these little node handles, which I can then modify. So try that, experiment with that a couple of times so you get it. And then you can see we have a curve coming one way, then going the other. So right click on that node, choose the smoothing option, and it smooths it right out. Nice, simple, easy transition. Now, I have all the outline done, so what I usually do is I take the outline and drag it down to a separate part of my document. And there is my outline. Then it's just a matter of stoning. How you stone it, it really doesn't matter. So for example, I could take this piece of the R and I stone it with CorelDRAW. Okay, I don't have the rStone plugin, so I just click my poker chips, get me a stack of chips here. This is my 10SS stone size, already predefined. I predefine that stone size at 3.3 millimeters. So there it is. I right click to copy it down here, so the original is still up there with the rest of the stack, and then I select that blend, choose new path, define that as a new path, blend along full path, apply. Check the spacing, increase the spacing a little bit till you get the, just to eyeball it. What do you like? I like that right there. So it's close but not too close. And then we're just going to do the same exact thing. Now we already have a blend here, so we can just copy this existing blend, define a new path, and apply. And now we could delete that extra path line that we don't need. And now obviously that's too much, so we have to back off our stone count, and let's try 15. Well, that's not too bad. What happens if we drop it a stone? That's pretty good. And coincidentally enough, where the R picks up, the spacing here isn't bad. Now, when we stone this, it might become bad. So let's do that. Let's copy this, okay? And you could do it two different ways. Sometimes I get in a bad habit of this. I click on the object I want to copy, I right click and drag, and then I get this contextual menu. Move, copy. So if I choose copy here, then I get a duplicate. I could simply click and drag with my left mouse button and then right click and create a duplicate that way too. It's actually a little bit easier that way. It's just I'm trying to break a bad habit. I used to always right click and drag, copy here, and because I didn't know about that little trick where you could left click and drag, then hit the right mouse button and let go and get a duplicate. So at any rate, I'm learning. So I have this path that I copied. Let's give it a new path and apply. We applied the new path. There we go. And then we have this little one down here. Again, we could copy one of these existing paths. Oops. See? I click and drag, right click. That gives me a duplicate. And I would give it a new path, which is here. But now I accidentally clicked on it twice. So let's try that again. So we will give this a new path, which is right there, and hit apply. And obviously that's too many stones, so let's do like 4 stones, something like that. And that's too many. 2 stones, there we go. That looks pretty good. And that actually, where those two connect, look pretty good. This is a little rough here, Okay, so we'll just kind of fine tune that a little bit, and that's why it's nice having these stones on a path, because all I had to do is just back that off a little bit, and now those two where they connect is actually pretty decent. So I would just continue that process all the way around. Now with rStone, it is kind of nice in a way, because in rStone I don't have to guess. I define my spacing already. I don't have to guess how many stones it's going to take to go around this letter O. So when I click this, add the stones, it's just going to do it. I don't really have to think about it. And so there are my stones, and my letter C here, same thing. Just click and it does it. And my K, I just click. There's my stones. It just does it. I don't have to think about it. It's going to add just as many stones as it can add, like so. And it's quick, it's easy. I don't have to really think about it. And you can see how quick it's done. Now, let me show you something here with rStones, because it is kind of an interesting setup here. Let me just back some of these stones off here so we can see this, because it really will help you get a better understanding of the differences between using rStone and using CorelDRAW. So you see, when I apply these stones with rStone, we have 3 stones across this line, and look at that space between those stones. That's quite a bit of spacing. Well, that's because basically what we told rStone is, hey, I want an object at the beginning, at the end, see, start and end, of whatever segment I have selected, and then you determine how many stones can fit between those parameters. But essentially what rStone has calculated is say, hey, if we touch this, okay, and we add another stone, technically speaking, there's enough room for another stone, but not room if we keep the spacing. Okay, so as an alternative, sometimes, in this case, it might be smart to not tell rStone to put one at the start and the end. Just take this line segment, put me in some stones. And so now when you get your stones, you only get 3 stones. You really don't get the 4 stones that, in this case, I really wanted 4 stones. You really don't get the 4 stones, but you do get these stones that are equally spaced. And so what we could do is, of course we already know, we could just add a stone very easily. And then we could take all of these stones here, and we could do a Shift P to set the spacing between those stones equally, and then we can kind of modify and maneuver those stones into position like we would want to. And the same thing here. We'll go ahead and apply. That's only going to give us 3, because we don't have one at the start and at the end. And for this case, that maybe that's okay. But here we'll do a start and end point. And so it added the stone at the top here. And see, what we can do here is we can just take this grouping of stones and we can just finesse it. See, we just move that down a little bit, give it the spacing there, and we can move this down a little bit and over if we needed to. We won't do a start and end point. See, there it gave us 4 stones, and that looks pretty good. Now here, well, we don't have quite enough stones, so we'll just add one. Real simple. Okay, give us that rock star. And this one here, I might just finesse it a little bit. Move this one up. Finesse a couple of these here, just to kind of make that transition there a little bit more cohesive. And that looks really good. So let's go ahead and finish this. Now, for this letter T here, I'm going to go ahead and drag this over so these touch. And then we'll go ahead and apply some stones. We'll apply some stones. Apply some stones. That looks pretty ugly right now, but we'll fix it. Okay, we get 3 there. So right now these do look a little ugly, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just delete the ugly stones. I'm going to see how this looks. So we're going to delete the ugly ones, and we're going to select all of these stones and do a Shift P. Now these are at a slant, but even at the slant, see how the spacing is basically equal between them now? And that looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to select this whole grouping. I got an extra stone here over on the right. I don't want that. But and then we'll just nudge it. See, we'll just finesse that. And that is going to look like we want it to look. And the bottom here, or the bottom of our T, a little bit spaced a little bit too far. Got kind of something weird going on there. So let's move that. And then take these 3 and just nudge them up a little bit. There we go. I think that looks a little bit better. And then we'll stone this with rStone. This was nice because we told it to be mindful of those control points. So at every control point we have a stone, but we also have conflict. And so we'll delete that stone and that one, and then we'll kind of finesse these out, giving a little bit of space. And then you have that stone making up the point. So that kind of takes care of that situation. And then same thing here. We've got an issue. So we'll move this stone over a little bit. And it's pretty easy to fix whatever issue you might have. It's not real complicated. We'll just finesse a few of these stones over till it's not as noticeable, a little bit of bump there. So what we'll do is we'll just finesse these stones a little bit too. Be mindful of that spacing between the stones. And that looks pretty good. And yeah, I think that'll work just fine. So that takes care of that one. And that issue here is not so bad. The spacing is a little goofy. So let's just make that a little bit more even there. And then of course we got stones on top of stones on top of stones here. So let's fix that issue. Bump those out a little bit on both sides. And then we have this capper stone. Bring that in a little bit. And we can just finesse these stones a little bit. And then we have another point here where we got to fix. So there's that. We'll just space these stones out a little bit. Don't think there's room for another stone in there. So there, that takes care of that. And we'll finish off the stoning process using rStone here. Okay, that looks pretty good. So then it's just a matter of taking the letter R here, making a faux connection to that stone, which looks pretty good. And then what we could do here is we can fine tune, have that look like it dies in a little bit better. I think that's pretty good. Yeah, and then there, I think that pretty well takes care of it. And then so it's just a matter of coming in here and giving the star its own color. So we'll do that quick. Give it a contrasting color. When we go to cut, we can, if we decide we want that star to be a different color, we'll have that option in our cut file. And usually what I do here, when I get all done tweaking the design the way I want to, usually what I'll do, once that design's all stoned out, I'll go ahead and grab it, I'll make a duplicate of it, and then I'll go into wireframe mode and really study this one, because this is what I'll actually wind up setting to my cutter. Now you can see we have a line there. That was a path that we did on CorelDRAW. So we'll have to fix that. We have to break that path apart. So we have our stones. But then I just delete all these paths. I do like to keep these paths, however, because you saw, if we have to make a slight adjustment or something, we still have all these lines that we created originally. But we'll come in here and get rid of these lines here. Alright, we have one more to do. Alright, that's pretty good. So, we have these. We have to get rid of these as well. Now we have to go back in and we have to break these apart. So let's go back in here to enhance mode and we'll break the blend apart. We'll break the blend apart and we'll break the blend apart. I'm just right clicking on those. Go back to wireframe mode. There's one more blend that we got to get rid of, and that's this one. Break apart. So we can go to view, wireframe mode, and we can delete the path that we no longer need, or paths. And there we go. Pretty cool. And then we go into the enhance mode again. And there is our finished design, Rockstar, ready to go to our cutter to cut out our Rhinestone template. So you see, it's really not that complicated. I probably made it look more complicated than it really is, but honestly, it's really not that complicated. So you just have to get in there and experiment, and you'll be knocking these designs out. No trouble at all. Using just CorelDRAW, simple designs like this can very easily be done with CorelDRAW. And then, if you have rStone, that's pretty cool too. You can use rStone to help facilitate and speed up the process as well. Thanks for watching.